Right, so this is the Angel Hug for Wednesday, the 28th of November, and I'm just going to see what I feel about when to stop. That one. Okay, great, acceptance. Right, so I kind of felt yesterday there were a couple of things that I didn't get to say about this card, so I'm not surprised that it's back again today. And what I want to say about this is I'm going to pick another card to go with it as well, just to see what the cards, how the cards make it more specific, how another card would make it more specific. But I would say this is about people. So it's about the way that we look at each other, the way that we judge each other, not just our circumstances, not just our lives, but we can be quite harsh at judging each other. And sometimes that's as the result of, being hurt, being rejected, being disappointed in some way, being quite shocked. I mean, in the midst of all of this creation of utopia and all of these dreams and all of this beautiful work, I hear things that really, really shock me, and they shouldn't, because I know that we are living still in this extreme duality, and in some ways it's becoming more extreme. And yet, so where is that place that we can actually find a way to understand the things that people do, and to also stay in a space of innocence, to stay in a space of expectation of good things, expectation of this beautiful shift and this huge, this change that we're in the middle of, this revolutionary, evolutionary change, this shift, this raise in consciousness and in vibration and frequency on Earth that we are experiencing. Why are some people just not experiencing it? Why do so many people seem to be asleep? Not only asleep, but descending more into darkness. Well, we know from so many allegories that we've seen in so many ancient texts and religious texts that it was always predicted that there would be a kind of polarization as we get closer and closer towards this shift, which is, it's not something that I'm going to attribute to a specific date, but we are really in the thick of it. And yes, there will be particular points when it becomes more intense. And, we can see a lot of that in astrology, in particular planetary alignments. We know the 21st of December is going to be very important. And yet, right, so it's really important for us to remember that there will be so many of us. The idea really is that the more of us who shift, the larger volume of us who shift, the more we shift everyone else. The more love and light we are able to contain. Our bodies are vessels, our bodies are very powerful conductors of divine energy. We are conducting this energy onto the earth. We are spreading it around the people close to us. We are touching people with our light, whether we are always consciously aware of it or not, and whether they are consciously aware of it or not. You will find at some point that people will start saying things to you like, it's really weird when you walk past, it's like a breath of fresh air, or I feel really calm around you, or I feel different, there's something different about you. Trust that, and trust that you are actually bringing change, and allow yourself to see everything and everyone else through the eyes of that change. So I suppose that's kind of the Gandhi thing about becoming the change you wish to see, but I don't like quoting because we get stuck in quotes and we get stuck in ideas, and we really need to be feeling this stuff rather than talking about it so much, she said. And but the feeling around it is that when we just embrace that light every day and we stay in that place, we challenge ourselves not to look around and be judgmental, but to stay in our hearts and to amplify that, and trust that wherever we are, wherever we go, whoever we are with, we are making a difference. Because the more of us that do that, the more others will do that, and the more and the more and the more and the more it will be triggered. So it's like a domino effect. And there isn't really much else we can do but continue to trust that, and to understand that there is a divine plan, and that whatever is meant to be will be. And ultimately there is always choice and free will, and we can't really interfere with the free will of anyone else. We really have to just do our bit and stay in that consciousness. So that's acceptance part 2, concerning other people. And yeah, we can only really work on ourselves, can't we? And I don't think any of us is really totally in a position to judge. Okay, so this is your life's purpose, the card says. Right, I love it. I love it that that card's come up after everything that I've just said, because ultimately, and this is something that I do say in the book, I'm not plugging the book, I just want to stay very pure around doing this reading right now. Ultimately, our purpose really is, as light workers, to come into these physical bodies, to wake up, and then to be able to allow this huge flood of divine energy of love and light to flow through us. And because of our intentions, because of our hearts, because of the places that we've come from, because of the mission that we're on, we are able to be very big conductors for that energy. And that is the biggest purpose that we have, to love and to serve and to be conductors of divine love and light that will enable this shift to happen more easily and effortlessly. The rest is details. My guide is saying details, details, details. You know, don't ask about what job you should do. Be here consciously in love and light, and continue to walk on that path. And we can sort the details out as you go. The more you become guided, the more you become practiced at staying within that space, the more the details and the plan and the design will reveal itself to you. Okay, that's great. So that's the reading, and I just want to quickly do a lucky dip. I'm not sure how long I've been talking, but I'm not going to worry about that today. I'm going to talk very quickly about a question that Martha keeps asking. No, that's too long for today. No, I've said it now, so she'll be expecting it. Right, Martha Mendenhall. I hope I said that properly. She says, I have a question. Why are we all so topsy-turvy, so mixed in our feelings about money and financial abundance? Isn't it just energy, just like love? Are love and money, are money and love really the same energy? Blessings to you. Right, so I'm going to talk about really the topsy-turvy bit, because there are a lot of conflicting feelings within light workers about money, and there are so many reasons for this. It's so complex and multi-layered. I have actually written something about this. I've written an article about it, and I was going to give it to magazine, but I might blog it. While I'm here, I just want to quickly mention that if you have access to Kindred Spirit magazine, I've got a lovely article for light workers in that, in the November-December issue. So have a look at that. I think you'll enjoy it. This one, right, about money. I'm just going to cover the points quite quickly, Martha, but you know, you might get to read this longer article at some point, but this is kind of it in brief. So as light workers, we know that we're on this path of ascension. We know what we've come here to do, and we look around, we look at history, and we look at those who've come before us and who have achieved this. I'm not going to say effortlessly, but who have achieved this feat. And they all seem to, almost without exception, to have walked away from wealth in order to find the inner wealth. So, you know, we have the Buddha, who was a prince, who left all his wealth behind. We have Jesus, who, okay, didn't go without, but was constantly wandering through the desert without, you know, even the need for a home, just moving from place to place. We have so many examples, yogis, masters who really, really do devote themselves to turning away from the material life in order to focus on the spiritual life. And these are, when we come into this body and we're looking around for a model for, okay, how do we do this ascension thing? These are the models we have. So a lot of us do have conflict about, well, how do I then embrace the material life and hold it up as being something worthy and worthwhile? So that's one thing. The other thing that's happening is that we then look around the planet and we see, well, who are the people who have wealth and how are they currently behaving? And right now, I've got to tell you, it's not a great model, because a lot of the things that, you know, the way that politics are being manipulated at the moment, the way that things are being passed under our noses, the way that a lot of us feel imprisoned by our circumstances, a lot of that is being done by the people that, you know, the 1%, as we say. Now, we know ultimately there's only unity, there's only love. We're all inevitably moving towards love. We will all inevitably ascend, and we're trying to get to a place of acceptance, not denial, and not condoning, but acceptance of everything that we see. However, when we look around us and we see how people who have a great deal of wealth are behaving, somewhere inside us there's another trigger that says, well, I don't think I want to be like that, thank you very much. That doesn't feel right. At the same time, there are people who have wealth, who are great philanthropists, who are kind of turning that whole thing on its head, that whole paradigm on its head. So, you know, there are contradictions here. There's no black and white. There are all kinds of shades. So these are all just elements of answering the question of why we have this topsy-turvy sense, rather than giving you an answer as to whether there is no judgment about whether money is good or bad in the angelic realm. However, in your pre-birth stages, when you were planning how you were going to come to earth and learn to be more loving and be a part of this great shift and shift everyone else up in consciousness, it's unlikely that you sat there and said, well, what are the experiences that are going to get me the house that I want with 10 bedrooms? What are the experiences that are going to get me that fast car? You were probably asking, what are the experiences that are going to shift my consciousness back into connection with the divine and communion with my guides and the angels? And what are the experiences that are going to teach me to be really loving, really, really loving, and open my heart and to be a channel for love on this earth? What will give me that? So don't be hard on yourself if those things are not coming. It's the co-creation with your higher self, with your divine presence and with your creator. And that doesn't necessarily mean that money is bad or that you need to make a decision that it's bad. However, you have made decisions about what you would like most to learn and what role you would most like to play, and that may or may not at certain times in your development contradict the desire for material comfort, although that can also blossom and be a part of your reality depending on how you perceive this whole dynamic. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to explain it as well as I can within a fairly short time. It's all about perception ultimately, and you might at some times perceive that in order to go within and to gain those spiritual riches, you have to move away from the distractions of the material physical world and the emotions that sort of longing might bring up in you. In other words, sometimes it creates a split, and you can see that split being lived out in the macrocosm on the planet right now, where it seems that within this extreme polarization there are those who are choosing wealth and materiality, and there are those who are choosing the spiritual path. And this isn't necessarily to say that they are mutually exclusive. It's an observation. Right, okay. So thank you guys, I can feel your influence and your love. And I just want to make, I think, one other point. So light workers also come to this planet with a program with a blueprint for bringing heaven to earth. And we often come from places, or have spent most of our time in places where this concept of money doesn't exist, where everyone has what they need automatically. And the idea that a being might want or require or desire something and not automatically have it is completely foreign to us. Somewhere in our nature, somewhere in our programming, in our DNA, and in our DNA is that memory of that sense of constantly being provided for, and that knowledge that that is the way it needs to be. That is the way. That is the way that love provides for everything, that source is abundant, and that it does automatically provide. When we come into the physical body, and that process is much slower, in other words, you can think and dream and manifest something, and then you have to wait for time and for matter to catch up with your creations, then yeah, we can experience another split there, and a sense of, well, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening for me? Why is it happening for those other people? I'm not prepared to compromise. I'm not prepared to go into some of those darker possibilities of how I'm going to make this happen and make it a reality. I'm staying in the place that I know from where I've come from. I am a messenger from paradise, and that's how I know how to behave. So perhaps for me it will be slower. Perhaps, perhaps not. Again, perception. Right. So, and we know that we have to hold that space within our consciousness, because that's ultimately where we're all moving. So we can't go into a space of denial of that purity. One, because that's not who we are. We cannot be anything else. And two, because it won't serve the whole ultimately. If we are moving towards a place where we are all living on an abundant earth, but it doesn't happen through people exchanging bits of paper and bits of metal, it happens through everyone coming into a spontaneous opening of the heart, wherein no one could possibly bear to see another soul go without and feel comfortable. If that's where we're moving, we have to hold that space until it becomes the reality. So that's the other thing. One final thing, I feel this is the final thing, is that light workers often come into their lifetimes with an agreement to experience certain kinds of trauma that will break us open and allow us to accept a greater amount of light, a more powerful amount of light. So we, in a sense, volunteer to go through a process that will mean a rapid destruction of the ego consciousness. It's intense, it's very intense, and I know a lot of you listening will know exactly what I mean. Sometimes though, on a residual emotional, psychodynamic level, it leaves with us a sense of being unworthy. Some of these events can leave that kind of esoteric, energetic scar tissue that filters through the emotions and the consciousness, and that tells us, I can't manifest anything good. And there's a range of possibilities for that. It could be because of attachments to people who we feel indebted to. We feel guilty about not having done enough. There's a wide range of things that light workers do to kind of hang on to stuff and to tell themselves that they don't deserve stuff. And this also does affect our ability to manifest and create. But number one, I would say, is that we are trying to stay in a very pure space, and we have beliefs that tell us that money is somehow impure. And they are just beliefs. They are just thoughts, and all of these things can be overcome. And that is an important part of the process. However, if it's your choice at this moment to continue to focus on your spiritual growth and development, that's fine. And if it's your choice at this moment to look for some kind of healing that will help you to overcome those ideas, those beliefs, and to move through that, that's also your choice. Sorry that was so involved, but I hope it helped. And I'll be back tomorrow with an angel hug. Bye!